Are you ready? Lost in His Own Museum podcast presents
Video content. This week's episode of Lost in His Own Museum is brought to you by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co. And be sure to add our podcast in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Lost in His Own Museum, episode 10.
Can you believe we've made it?
I can't believe we've made it. This is awesome.
It's actually really amazing, isn't it?
It's really cool to be on episode 10. So we watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade before this one. We've got a bit of an action-packed one today because we put out a Q&A on some social media and got quite a lot. I think we've got like 10, maybe 12 questions to get through. Plus, I'm doing a little movie quiz for JT later on.
He's getting me back for last time when I just completely put him on the spot and went, right, we haven't got a Q&A this week, so I'm going to give you a Q&A.
Yeah.
And I think, did you go 10 for 20?
Oh, I think I went 10 for 20.
So that's my score to beat.
Yeah. It's a bit of a tough one, so I'll apologise in advance because I think you are going to struggle a bit with some of these.
Bastard!
Bastard! We've also got, there's going to be a bonus question at the end, which you can answer at home, but please don't Google it. And give us a shout on social media and let us know what you think the answer is.
I got half of it right. My girlfriend, who doesn't even like the film that it's from, miraculously knew it all.
So should we do that now, just to get it out?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Okay, so the bonus question for the Q&A. The character of Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off is seen throughout the film wearing a jersey from which NHL hockey team? Bonus point if you get the player on the back. So please don't Google it. Give us a shout on social media and let us know what you think the answer is. So this week we watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
We did indeed. It is my favourite film,
Such a good film
of all time. There is not a film I think is better than this film.
It's awesome. It's just amazing. I mean, even in the Indiana Jones trilogy, I love all of them with the possible exception of Temple of Doom. But I'm gonna get chased down by some indie fans here, but I think it's better than Raiders.
I agree that it's better than Raiders. I think it takes everything that was fantastic in Raiders and builds upon it just it uses the foundation blocks, the building blocks, and just takes it to the next level. I've come round on Temple in the last few years, and don't get me wrong, I've always liked it, much like yourself, but it was always my least favourite, even after, and you can put some booze in post here, Phil, even after Crystal Skull came out, I still would rank Temple last.
I think I would. Crystal Skull was okay until sort of towards the end where it started to get really silly.
The third act of Crystal Skull is utter wank. We'll put that out there. It really is just. But I think that the first two acts of Crystal Skull feel more like an Indiana Jones adventure than, say, Temple does. But obviously Temple's a stronger film. So I suppose we're speaking subjectively here, aren't we, rather than objectively?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you're looking at it objectively, they're probably... They go down in quality with each film that came out afterwards.
Yeah, I would say Temple's probably technically like a stronger film on the whole, in terms of everything, including the third act.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, George Lucas even said, because obviously Spielberg's the director and the sort of visionary behind it, but Lucas is the story idea, isn't he?
Yeah.
And even he said at the time that he was going through a divorce, he was suffering from mental ill health and depression, and that really informed the story that he was writing at the time. It wasn't as much of a happy-go-lucky adventure as, say, Raiders is, and obviously even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and obviously Last Crusade that we're going to talk about in a minute as well. And I think it's really sort of interesting how life can imitate art and art can imitate life. But I mean, we'll see what happens with number 5 as well that's coming out, because obviously that's coming out next year.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for that.
I am. I'm cautiously optimistic. I wasn't at first because I was sort of like, they announced it to come out in like summer of 2019. And I'm like, right, okay, he's just done Force Awakens, and he was all right in that as a supporting character, was Harrison Ford. And then obviously he's done Call of the Wild as well, and whilst the film itself isn't up to much, he's okay in it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, well, if they tone down the action a bit and some clever stunt doubles, and, maybe if they get a better younger lead than Shia LaBeouf, Mutt Williams sort of character or whatever, they can bring some other young, male, female, whoever in to do the brunt of the heavy lifting, if you like, and Indy can be there as the mind. Then I thought, well, maybe this can work. And then he's, obviously, bless him, Harrison Ford, he's 80 next summer when that film comes out. And it's like, I mean, obviously, I know that it doesn't stop people from acting. You don't get to 70 or 80 and all of a sudden that's it. You can't do it anymore. I mean, but it's like Indiana Jones is an action star. So I was sort of like, I don't know that they should do this. And like I said, this franchise, along with James Bond, is probably my favourite of all time.
I think this movie might end up being a little bit more sort of cerebral.
Yeah.
And a bit more dialogue based and kind of a more slow and steady story. I might be wrong, but I think to have Harrison Ford at that age in the movie, it's going to have to be.
I'm inclined to agree with you, and I don't think that it's a happy coincidence that they've brought in Logan's director, James Mangold, to see this adventure through.
Yeah, it's going to be more like that, isn't it?
I think it's going to be a Logan-style story. I think, and I hope, that it'll be more in keeping, again, with Crystal, Raiders, and Crusade. I don't think they're going to go too dark and gritty, i.e. Temple, or even some of the adventures, maybe like the Young Indie Chronicles or whatever, stuff that doesn't feel quite as indie. But I've sort of read, because I don't know why I did this, but when you end up down a deep, dark hole on Reddit, and somebody...
Down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole we went. 3 pages deep, as Laura likes to call it. That's sort of what it gets referred to as in our house.
3 sheets to the wind.
I say, I'm positively merry. It's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning and I'm 3 sheets to the wind. I've just got my gyro through, old boy. Huzzah to the local spoons.
To bargain booze, tally-ho.
Ah, yes. Quick, sharp.
Right, anyway.
We can't use any of this.
We might not use it for the podcast, but we'll use it for something.
So, yeah. I was down the deep, dark rabbit hole last night on Reddit, and one of the things that I read from somebody, and it's always one of these, a trusted source close to the film, but they were the ones that called out that Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen were going to join the cast, and Boyd Holbrook as well, before it got announced, so that there's some credibility there. But yes, I read this, and that supposedly the story's about the space race, and supposedly Mads Mikkelsen is going to be Marion's long-lost half-brother, because Abner Ravenwood, Marion's dad, who we'll come back to in a minute when we sort of talk certain plot points of Last Crusade, which we will get to. I know we're about 3 hours in at this point, but we will get to it. But yeah, supposedly when Abner Ravenwood was off on his adventures, as he's obviously the inspiration in canon for Indy, Indy sort of modelled after Abner Ravenwood. He's had this affair and has had this child with a German lady who's grown up to be a Nazi, and then after the war sought sanctuary in America and ends up working for NASA during the space race. And then apparently the MacGuffin is going to be some sort of like, I don't know, ancient piece of crap or whatever that has unlimited power, and NASA want to harness it for the power of the rockets. Right. And so it's sort of going to be like this whole Russian versus American sort of Cold War flavoured again, but with the Nazis back, because we've got your man Mads Mikkelsen as a retired Nazi, but it's also a close family thing because he's going to turn up and he's sort of related to Indy. And then apparently Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is going to be Mads Mikkelsen's daughter, but she's a complete good guy and he's like estranged from him and is close with Marion. Apparently Salah's coming back, and apparently the film is going to close out with Indy passing the torch, not necessarily to make more films, but in story passing the torch to Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, as in she's going to take over his job at the museum and teach his class at the Marshall University. And then Marion and Indy are literally sort of going to be, sort of ride off into the sunset sort of, and ending Indy's going to retire.
Okay. Yeah.
If we
I'm up
get
for that.
something like that, I'm sold.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I think that would be.
But
That would close out the series quite nicely, I think.
yeah, it would. I mean, George Lucas always said when he came up with the story of Indiana Jones, and Lucas isn't actually involved in this one, I don't think, unless he's going to get like a creative consultant sort of credit or something. But I don't think he's actively involved in the writing of. But he always said that he saw Indy as a 5-story arc.
Yeah.
And so I think it'd be quite nice to sort of see it realised. But yeah, so I'm cautious, I'm hopeful, I'm excited. It means a lot to me, does Indiana Jones, as obviously you know, and we'll talk about on this episode. So I just want him to do it well.
Yeah, same. Yeah. It's such an iconic franchise, and it was Harrison Ford's kind of next big thing after Star Wars, and it just.
I would say arguably he's more known as Indy than he is for Han Solo.
Do you think?
I think Indiana Jones is a more accessible character.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do. I think the films are more accessible as well, because obviously Star Wars, as much as me and you are die-hard nuts of it and cannot get enough of the stuff, I think you've really got to like sci-fi.
Yeah, I think so.
To watch them, and there's quite a lot of sort of things that aren't the norm in day-to-day life that are in Star Wars. Talking robots and aliens and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I know Indy did Aliens, but look how well that went down.
Yeah.
But Indy's based on sort of the Crusades. It's based on the history of the Bible, and it's just a lot more accessible because it's beliefs and it's things practiced in the real world. And there could have been somebody like there will have been adventurers like that, and he's a teacher, and yeah. So I would say Harrison Ford's more sort of recognised and sort of appreciated as Indy than he is, say, Han Solo.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
The internet may come and hunt me down for that statement, but
we'll see what happens.
He has more fun. He definitely has more fun playing Indiana Jones. You can see it.
We'll put a poll out on Twitter and see what we get back.
Do you know what? That's a really good shout. We'll put a poll out. So, Last Crusade, you might have sort of gathered from the way we're just chatting now, we're going to do this a little bit differently because it's our 10th episode spectacular. We are going to do a plot recap, but we're not going to sort of go into, sort of detailed synopsis sort of level. We're just sort of going to talk about, bits that we enjoy from the film and work our way from beginning to end of the film.
Because if you listen to this podcast, you will have seen The Last Crusade, so... Or at least I hope you have. If not, maybe go and watch it and then come back and have a listen.
If you haven't seen it, you're pilgrims in an unholy land.
So, first of all, I mean, the opening scenes with River Phoenix, I absolutely adore that. I think it's a great bit of backstory.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It tells you everything you need to know about the character in about 15 minutes, and it's done expertly.
It is, and even bits of really sort of expositional Easter egg explaining this bit backstory, it still works, because it could be construed as being really cheesy if it had been done now, but things like the whip with the lion where he catches himself on the chin and it's the scar,
yeah.
Harrison Ford's iconic sort of chin scar, and then you've got the bit where he falls into the snake pit and it explains why he's terrified of snakes.
Yeah,
even though at the beginning it's just a snake,
yeah.
And yeah, it's even stuff like that. It stuff that would be really cheesy today, it really works. And River Phoenix was just the perfect choice.
He really was, wasn't he? He'd worked with Harrison Ford on Mosquito Coast, which I think is it Peter Weir, Alan Weir, somebody Weir,
like that,
had made the film, and Harrison Ford reckons it's his best film.
I didn't get on with it.
We did not get on with it at all. We did a Harrison Ford movie marathon a couple of years ago, and yeah, that was sort of like one of the ones that was the absolute dregs of the pile, wasn't it? Well, I put it on thinking Harrison Ford's raving about this film. It's the best piece of work I've ever done, and the story and the acting, and he goes on about it in interviews if you read, and it's like, I
don't know if it was technically that bad. It was just hard to sit through.
I thought it was dire.
It was just awkward, because Harrison Ford's such a his character in it's so annoying, and he's got this infuriating character who's such a dick, and you just I find it quite. I just found it really jarring, really difficult to sit through,
By the end of that film, if I'd gone on the journey that the characters had gone on with Harrison Ford in the end of that film, by the time he's got to the end and he's broken his back and they're in the boat rowing away, and he's asking his wife, "Are we going back to the the town I built?" And she's going, "Yes, dear," but they're not. They're rowing back to civil.
I'd have fed him the crocodiles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Chuck him in the river.
He fell off. There were a crocodile. What can I do? I mean, I wasn't going to jump in afterwards. I've got my kids to look after. Honestly, officer. It's such a shame. How will we ever cope? But yeah, working with River Phoenix on that film was the sort of the catalyst for him joining the Last Crusade team as young Indy.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sort of the Taron Egerton in Kingsman 2 story with Elton John. You know, it was like that.
Yeah,
like, this is the guy. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's going to play like young Indiana Jones, this is it. And he's amazing. He's such a physical actor, and he gets the mannerisms just right. You know, he's clearly been a fan of the first two films.
And he's studied it, hasn't he? You can tell. Yeah. It's like the bit where he's sort of like he gets the Cross of Coronado, which belongs in the museum, by the way, Phil.
Yep.
And he
said it. He said it on the podcast.
He said it. Where's Ruben when we need him? He jumps out and he jumps, into the sort of the canyon, sort of ready to go and get his horse, and he's Mr. Havelock, anybody.
Everybody's lost but me.
And it's that everybody's lost but me line.
Perfect.
It's not an imitation, but it's like he is the same character, 20 years younger, and then obviously the train chase.
The train chase is brilliant.
The train chase is fantastic. The music from John Williams, we don't often talk about the score in much detail, which is odd for two musicians.
It is, but John Williams is just... I mean, because I love the music from Indiana Jones anyway. It's one of my favourite scores in general by John Williams. I mean, I love Star Wars and I love Jurassic Park and, and E.T. and all of those, but this one really, for me, is the kind of... with the possible exception of Jurassic Park, I think it's probably my favourite.
The music from this film in particular is my favourite of any John Williams work. The
Nazi theme is awesome.
Yeah, the Nazi theme's great. The Grail theme and the Henry Jones Sr. theme. It's excellent. And then the Raiders March, obviously fantastic, and has been in both the previous films as well, and it carries over expertly here. And then the motifs that are used in the train chase at the beginning, and then they're carried out throughout the rest of the film, aren't they?
Yeah, it's sort of like put in different keys and moved around a bit, and it's incredible. John Williams is he's not my favourite film composer. That's the thing. I mean, I'm a huge fan of James Horner. I think the stuff that he does is sublime and incredible. But like John Williams is the film composer. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah. Because my favourite film composer is Michael Kamen.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those.
But there is no denying that John Williams is the master of his craft. Again, they announced that 90 years old, he's coming back to score Indy 5, and I punched the air. I was like, yes, because it's like, even though there are plenty of able composers out there,
it has to be John Williams.
It just has to be, doesn't it?
There's even there's a lot of able composers that are kind of that have been sort of faithful students of John Williams' work, and you can tell, even down to stuff that Danny Elfman does. There's a lot of there's a lot of a kind of John Williams flavour and a lot of that, the more serious scores that he does.
There really is, yeah, it is.
He's influenced so many other composers.
I'm going to say, his influence turns up everywhere. Yeah. But obviously, Indy gets through the train fight, and again, you find out where the scar comes from, you find out his fear of snakes, his use of a whip, and you see him using his sort of his cunning, his wit, his intelligence, as he outsmarts the grave robbers. And then at the end of the scene, he runs home, and we straight away get the flavour of he's got a really strained relationship with his dad. He tries to tell his dad he's found the cross, and Connery's voiceover comes over.
Count to 10 in Greek.
Yeah, count to 10 in Greek. And then the sheriff turns up and sides with the bad guys, and the man from Del Monte turns up and takes the Coronado's cross away. And it's at that point that we're introduced to a guy who I can't remember whether he goes uncredited or whether he just gets credited as John or something in the credits. But in the early drafts of the script, he was Abner Ravenwood.
Yeah.
Which is obviously Marion's dad, and he gets talked about in Raiders, and again obviously later on in Crystal Skull. And they decided that was one bit of exposition too far.
Yeah, I suppose it would have been.
So they got rid of that, but obviously that character and that interaction is really sort of like the final bit of the catalyst for making indie become indie. And it's like, I love the scene as well where he puts the hat on River Phoenix's head, and River Phoenix sort of bows down to accept the hat,
and then they do the switch.
And then when he comes back up, it's Harrison Ford, and we carry on that same story.
That's a great scene as well. Like,
the second time I've had to recover my property from you.
So what do you think is? What's your favourite scene in this movie? Do you think?
It's the last scene.
Do you reckon when they've gone off into the sunset?
Yeah. It's without. I'm not even ashamed to say this. Without any sort of hesitation, just makes me cry.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It is one of them. Yeah. I think it made me cry a little bit yesterday when I watched it.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
It's just fantastic. I think it's the perfect movie. I love the catacombs. And he's lecturing in his classroom, to his guys. If you want truth, the philosophy class is down the hall.
Yeah.
And there is no buried treasure.
And X never ever marks the spot.
Exactly that. Yeah. And then they're in the. I believe I found the source of the Roman numerals, Indy. And it's what have we found? 3, 7, 10. Everybody look around for the 10.
And then he climbs. It didn't need to climb the staircase as well, but I quite like that bit of dramatic effect.
Yeah,
it's like I can see the big X on the floor, but I must see it from above.
Yeah,
to make sure that it is actually a big X, and it's not some kind of weird optical illusion or something.
Yeah,
and that scene as well with the stamp.
Yeah,
I know it's like just a little bit of
it's
sort of
just
physical
daftness,
comedy,
isn't it? Yeah, but they do lean into the comedy a bit more in this one, don't they?
Yeah,
like Raiders is a lot more serious, isn't it? That there are silly moments in it, but like even stuff with where the monkey dies, and it's like bad dates. And, like it's meant to be played off as a bittersweet scene, but it comes across really sinister. And
it comes across quite dark, doesn't it? Like
and like when he thinks Marion's dead and he's about to kill Belloc in the cafe, and then all the guys. It's a much darker film, isn't it? And, Marion, don't open your eyes, and even the top men bit and
it is quite. It's a little bit more sinister than Crusade. I mean, this one of the reasons why I like Crusade, I would say, more than Raiders, is because
it balances it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got a nice balance of everything, and there's a lot of really cool, heartfelt moments in it. I love Marcus Brody. Yeah, as a character, I think he's brilliant.
A lot of people say that. I mean, and I agree with it. Or I agree with some of the statements that they're making, that he's a lot more clownish and buffoonish in this than he is in Raiders. Well, he's hardly in Raiders, really. He's an exposition character at the beginning, at the end, but he doesn't come along for the journey. But when he's on the journey in this one, he's obviously completely inept, and they really dial it up to 11, don't they? Does anybody here speak English?
Especially with the contrast of the kind of again, this is where the name of our podcast comes from. With the contrast of him saying he'll blend in, disappear, you'll never see him again. With any luck, he's got the grill already, and then it's like straight to this shot of water, no thank you, no fish make love in it. He's just. But what the thing I love about Marcus Brody is that he's such a because we're kind of used to this thing in films now where you just don't trust any of the characters because everybody's like, with a film like that, people are going to be screwing each other over.
Yeah, and everyone's got their own motive.
Yeah, whereas Brody has this really pure motive, and he wouldn't even think to stab Indiana Jones in the
he's
back.
Essentially in all but blood Indy's uncle, isn't he?
Yeah, like stabbing him in the back wouldn't even occur to him.
No,
and I like that because it's nice to have that grounded kind of ally character that you can trust.
Because we're on the journey for rescuing Indy's dad, played by Sean Connery, which is really the heart of this story. But we don't really know until we meet up with Sean Connery whether or not he's defected and gone to the Nazis. Because going into it that there's got to be a Nazi traitor somewhere, but you don't know. Is it Elsa? Is it Donovan? Is it Dad Connery? Yeah. And obviously, like you say, Marcus is that only person in it besides Indy that right. He's definitely
on the side. He's on the level. And then I think it's really nice when you find out later on that him and Indy's dad went to college together.
Yeah,
because they don't explicitly say it, but the whole.
There's a few throwaway lines, isn't there? It's like I think he says, I watched you grow up together, and I watched you grow apart. So there's that.
There's the whole bit in the tank where they meet up with each other again, and they do the weird I'm not quite sure what it is, but
like a greeting and almost like a secret handshake sort of thing.
It's a British university thing. You know, it's like it's what Oxford graduates do when they were in the same secret society together.
Yeah.
You know, like them. Yeah, they're all in the same boating club or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's one of those. And I love that, and I love that scene as well because you know, when Connery gets the guy with the pen.
Yeah.
And Brody, even though they're in this extremely dangerous situation, he just can't help himself with like throwaway literary references, like, "Don't you see, the pen is mightier than the sword," and he's an excitable child, which I think is like.
And he's like, "Henry, what are you doing?" And then Connery, who's been disgusted by all the violence thus far, he's starting getting, "It's war, old boy."
But one of the things I really like about it is that in a lot of other films, you know, archaeologists and historians are seen as quite sort of dour and quite grumpy and miserable and
do you know why?
Things. And in this one, it's just like they're what archaeologists really are like, which is excitable. And you know, they're obsessed with the same stuff now that they were when they were kids. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why they've got into it. I think that, do you know what, the four main heroes are obviously Indy, Henry, Marcus, and then obviously Salah comes in sort of towards the end of the second act.
Yeah.
The chemistry is impeccable.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It's really good.
It's just absolutely top-notch stuff, and I think that, like I say, it just takes everything that worked about Raiders and Temple as well, to be fair, and just builds upon it. And Sean Connery is a fantastic addition. Do you know the reason they cast Connery to play Indy's dad?
Yeah.
It was because Indiana Jones was the... So when Star Wars came out in 1977, George Lucas was so convinced that it was going to flop that he didn't attend the premiere.
Yeah,
and booked to go on a Caribbean holiday with Steven Spielberg.
Him and Spielberg went to Hawaii.
And so
and wrote the script
Hawaii. Yeah, so they wrote the treatment, and Spielberg's idea was, I want to make an action hero that's the next James Bond. And Lucas's contribution was, I want to make the adventure serials that we grew up watching in the 40s and and the 50s sort of thing. So when you combine those two ideas together,
you get Indiana Jones.
You get Indiana Jones. And like, you know, obviously the pre-title sequence, the Anything Goes sequence in Temple is straight out of a Bond movie. It is a Bond pre-title sequence. Hell, Indy's even dressed up in the Goldfinger, white tux.
Yeah.
From the title sequence. And so when they knew that it was going to be a father-son story and a sort of an estranged relationship reconciliation, the only person that they ever had in mind to play him was Sean Connery, because they're like, well, James Bond is, from a writing standpoint, the father of Indiana Jones, the inspiration.
Yeah.
So James Bond needs to be It
was the perfect choice.
Yeah. And there we are, folks. We've gone 10 for 10.
Yeah. More James Bond references.
Absolutely.
I haven't got a David Fincher one in yet, but I'm sure.
Well, he has a cameo in this film.
Nearly had me there. I was like, so I mean, I'm not quite sure what my favorite bit of the movie is. I mean, I think that the scene where they turn up to in the canyon of the Crescent Moon to get the Grail at the end, and they sending in volunteers.
Yeah.
And they keep getting their heads cut off, and then when Indy goes in and he finally figures it all out, and it's the way that him and Connery are sort of talking to each other in a way like reminds me, actually, sorry, one of my favourite moments is without a doubt when he gets the diary accidentally signed by Hitler.
Yeah,
that's just amazing. That's so funny. Like, it's a beautiful scene because it's really tense because here he is standing face to face with
Adolf Hitler,
the most evil man who ever lived.
Yeah,
in a Nazi uniform. Do you know what I mean? And he just Adolf Hitler, gives it back. Has no idea that it's the Grail diary. I love that bit. But yeah, it's the bit towards the end where him and Connery, even though Connery's lying on the ground, dying of a gunshot wound, and they're sort of talking to each other, and the penitent man kneels before God, and when he finally figures it out, and it's just in time, and then. But in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah starts with an I. I love that bit because it's just J straight down.
Do you know what? I didn't notice. I must have seen this film 20 times or more. And last night I watched Shameless Plug. I watched it in the home cinema.
Yeah.
And obviously the screen's huge in there, isn't
JT at the Movies YouTube channel's Home Cinema.
it? Absolutely.
If you're going to do a plug, do it right.
Sponsored by Phil Graham. But yeah, watched it, and obviously huge screen, HD on the Blu-ray. And when he's doing that, Donovan's right behind him. I never actually noticed that before, but Donovan's literally only 2 steps behind him the whole way.
I've never noticed that.
And I noticed it last night. I'm like, bloody hell, because he kneels, and then Donovan sort of jumps back a bit because he's literally just there with him to make sure that Indy doesn't just completely throw away. It bears no real relevance on the plot. But, it's always nice when you go back to, for this my favourite film, but, a film you've seen dozens of times.
Notice something new.
And notice something new.
I'll have to look out for that. I've never noticed that before. Because he does show up shockingly quickly.
Yeah, it's literally because he's on his heels.
Yeah.
Because I always thought as well, like because obviously there's all the fake tiles, and Indy only puts 1 foot wrong, well 1.5, doesn't he? Because he sort of slips off one, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And like the it's like, well, hang on a minute, how are they going to know where to? But yeah, it's literally because they are literally a step behind him.
Yeah.
And when he's throwing the gravel back over, obviously it'll be to show them that there is actually a path there. I know I've told you before, and I'll sort of tell the story. A couple of years ago, I had the honour and the privilege of meeting Julian Glover, who played Walter Donovan in this film.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. I got to talk to him for about 20 minutes. He was at a Comic-Con up here in Yorkshire, where we are based, where the museum HQ is.
Yeah.
And he came, and more people were wanting to talk to him about, like, I've not watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know how involved he is in it, but apparently he's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he's turned up in that few. He's in quite a lot of stuff.
And he's
a bit of that guy.
He's obviously Christatus in For Your Eyes Only. And most people were talking to him about Game of Thrones, or I can't remember. He's one of the admirals. He's the admiral that gets stepped up in Empire after Vader chokes out the.
Yes, yeah, I was trying to remember.
And, did you know as well? He's also Aragog the Spider in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now that I hear his voice, I'm like, yeah.
You can hear it, can't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I talked to him, and he sort of he didn't have a lot of technical detail about how they did it, but he was saying that in the "You Chose Poorly" scene, he's in that scene more than the mannequin and the puppets are. And like the makeup and the special effects was really heavy, and it was most of it was done with practical effects, and there was things rigged all over him.
Horrifying.
And he actually said as well that this was his favourite film of his whole career that he's ever worked on.
I figured the bit where his hair was growing was stopgap. I think there's quite a bit of stop motion animation in there.
Yeah, you can just see it, can't you, in the motion of it.
Well, it's quite clever the way that they film it, because when they do that shot where he grabs a hold of her. Mm-hmm. But she's out of shot, like her face is out of shot. So presumably that's like it's a body mannequin.
Yeah, and he
holds onto it, and then
they do what they do.
Yeah, they do hair, shot, hair, shot, like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of stop motion in there. It's really interesting.
But yeah, he said it was fascinating doing it, and just how much of it he was actually involved for.
Yeah.
And
it's terrifying scene.
Yeah,
genuinely quite.
No, it really is, isn't it? I thought that watching it last night, it was like I've seen it a million times, and it doesn't scare me, but it's spooky.
Yeah, every time it's kind of.
It's like, oh yeah.
How graphic that was,
Laura's not one for being squeamish for gore or anything like that. Even she's like, don't like it, and was like, hands over the face, peeking through the fingers.
Because Laura's a massive horror nut.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Yeah. We're sat there, folks, and I'm doing the actions for you, but I'm remembering that
it's radio, kids.
Yeah. Hans, baby, this is radio. Put the gun away.
So what else can we say about
Alison Doodie's fantastic as Elsa Schneider.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She plays a really good. Would you call her a femme fatale? Really?
I think so in this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though, because she's kind of on the tipping point of being an ally all the way through it.
Yeah, she's not really. She's in it for the Grail. She's not in it for the Nazis.
Yeah, she's not a sort of pure blood Nazi. And there's bits that give it away. Is like when they're having the book barbecue. To quote the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Have ourselves a little book barbecue in the yard.
We'll dance around it like wild Indians. Yeah, and she's like, when they're having the book barbecue, and she's like crying and standing behind Adolf Hitler himself in tears, and it's that kind of gives it away.
And obviously she chooses the wrong cup, as we've just discussed, for
on
Donovan,
purpose to get it to make sure he dies. Yeah,
and to make sure Indy gets it. And I love that. That the minute Donovan's dead, he's like, well, it wouldn't be made out of gold.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, like, for someone that's chasing the Holy Grail, I mean, even I know that much about Christianity.
Yeah.
If the Holy Grail is, it's not going to be a big shiny gold thing.
No, because obviously he was a carpenter. He was a working man, wasn't he? And did his teachings alongside that sort of thing. So, like you say, the cup of the King of Kings isn't going to be this. You'd be more likely to see Henry VIII drinking out of something like what Donovan drinks from. And
presumably the other grails are sort of just bits and pieces that the knights have picked up along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I can't remember where I saw it, but somebody made the point of, can you imagine if anybody ever went in the cave over the various thousands of years that people tried to retrieve it and tried to drink from the gold plate that's at the back?
Again, I'm doing
the actions as well. But like you see it in the background shots, and it's like this thing that you put the Christmas turkey on, or whatever. It's like dipping that in and just going.
It's a dinner tray, is what it is.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Is this film? I love it. The scenes in Venice. I know we talked about already. They go down the catacombs, and the rats, and the finding the Grail rubbing, and then the Brotherhood, the sworn to protect the Grail.
Oh, yeah, the boat chase is cool. It's a very cool scene.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them. Go between them. Are you crazy?
That's such a James Bond thing at the end. Where the boat's being sort of eaten by the propeller, and it's we'll die together, and
But I really like the fact that Indy's flawed in that scene, because he's like, I'm prepared to die, and then my soul's prepared. How's yours?
Yeah.
And then Indy sort of looks and realizes, I'm not getting anywhere fast doing this, am I? And I really liked that whole sort of thing.
Like threatening to kill this guy isn't going to work. We're going to have to try something different.
Yeah. This film has been one of my favourite films, and is my favourite film now in recent years. But the first time I ever watched this, I was probably 5 or 6. I was probably a bit young to be watching it, but as we've discussed many times on this podcast, my dear old dad didn't have a filter when it came to films, and I could watch whatever I wanted so long as my mother didn't find out. And God rest him. And this film I couldn't watch for the longest time because obviously Dad passed away coming up 3.5 years ago, and this was our film.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And he showed me this one Saturday afternoon where Mum and my sister had gone out, and I don't know what I think my sister used to take dance classes or something. They were doing something like that, and they were out for the afternoon, and I can see him in my mind clear as day. Back when we had videotapes. Oh, Jim, I've got to show you that. Been really excited to show me this film.
Yeah.
And I sort of sat down. And, 5-6-year-old me at first, well, it's not Scooby-Doo, so I'm not interested. It's not Batman, so I'm not interested. And within 10 minutes of the opening scenes with River Phoenix and the train sequence, and then into the Portuguese dock with the fighting on the sinking ship, and I was like, hooked.
Yeah.
Literally hooked. And then I just couldn't, take my eyes off the screen. And I remember just sitting in awe watching them ride off into the sunset after it, and it just been fantastic. And Indiana Jones was always mine and my dad's thing. I mean, along with James Bond as well. But I would say that we bonded over Indy before I found a love for James Bond. And obviously he showed me then, because we didn't have them. I don't know whether you used to do this or not, but now obviously we've got shelves, or in my case rooms full of actual authentic DVDs. But
we taped them off the telly.
Off the telly, yeah, absolutely.
With adverts on them from when I taped them off ITV when they were on that. And I think I missed Temple, and I've had Raiders and Crusade, but I don't think I touched Raiders again. When I had the video, I think I like Crusade. I kept going back to.
Yeah.
Because I just love it.
I do as well, and the whole father-son dynamic in it. Obviously I'm nothing like Indiana Jones, and my dad was nothing like Henry Jones Sr. But the whole father-son dynamic in it really, as I'm sure it does with any close father and son, reminded me of our own unique dynamic. And after he went, I couldn't watch this for the longest time. And like Laura got me a CD of film soundtracks, and the Raiders March came on, and I had to turn it off, or just a mess. But I'm really glad that I've been able to come back to it, and it's so much more special to me now.
Yeah,
because I almost sort of get my dad back for a couple of hours, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
take it to a really weird and personal place. But
no, like I love the father-son dynamic with Indy and Henry, because you still get the impression that they are really fond of each other, but it's like they've had this weird upbringing, and like
like the mum's died, and clearly she was the the sort of the missing ingredient of it. I think it might be explored in the Young Indy Chronicles, but
which I still haven't seen. I need to watch some of those because I really like Sean Patrick Flannery as well. And
they're great. That one I sent you, because they're all on. For anybody watching, some absolute legend, and I'm sure they won't be there for long, because I'm sure Disney will probably want to have a word about it. But some absolute legend has put all the episodes restored in HD on YouTube. So I've been working my way through them as well, because the DVD's out of print. I think, like I said, the story gets explored there, though.
I'm quite surprised it's not on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I am as well. Well, I think George Lucas couldn't make his mind up with that. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but the series used to be bookended by an actor called George Hall, who was playing like 97-year-old Indiana Jones, and he'd always be getting into like your typical sort of old man adventures, like, you know, getting stuck at the post office or causing a scene in a shop and getting taken to the drunk tank, and, you know, silly things like that. Or like he'd go to see his grandson's rock and roll band play and then to cut the power because he didn't like the music, or you know, that sort of stuff. Those are the sort of bookends that you'd get, and there'd always be some little motif in those bookends that would go, oh, I remember a time when I was in school, and, you know, so on and so forth. Indy 4, Crystal Skull did reference it, though, you know, because when he says, oh, well, I rode with Poncho Villa.
Oh, yeah.
That's an episode.
Right, okay.
So it is sort of still canon. But yeah, Lucas sort of then couldn't make his mind up whether or not they were episodes and they had these, you know, George Hall indie bookends, or whether they were just... Then he edited them into, like, TV movies, and they were, like, continuations of, like, the indie series, like prequels, and that didn't work as well. One of the episodes, they actually got Harrison Ford to do the bookends for it.
Okay.
So Crystal Skull is actually his 5th appearance.
Right, yeah.
Because there's like I say, TV movie, Indiana Jones and the Mystery of the Blues, and it's the sort of the opening scene and the final scene are set in the winters of Wyoming in I think the early 50s. It's set just before Crystal Skull anyway, and then it flashes back to Indy in his college days working with Elliot Ness and Ernest Hemingway to try and bring down the bootlegging operation and solve a murder that Al Capone's behind.
That's very cool.
Actually really good. My favourite episode of the Young Indy series, and probably swayed a bit because it's got the proper tie to the main series with Ford being in it. What were we talking about? We had to pause and then jump back in again, didn't we?
I think the sort of father-son dynamic between Henry Jones and Indy is awesome.
It really is.
Because you sort of get that they have like a rocky relationship, but it's such an interesting father-son dynamic because they've both had quite an interesting. Like, obviously, Henry Jones has had a really interesting life. And he doesn't really understand Indy's thing of getting into these big dangerous adventures and stuff. The bit on the airship, I love where they have that sort of they finally have that sort of 5 minute sit down,
and neither of them has anything to say to each other.
Yeah, I just love that scene though. That, like, right from chucking the Nazi officer out the window and like, no ticket, and then everybody starts like
tickets.
Yeah, I love that.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah,
phenomenal scene.
But it's really one of them, isn't it, where you can sort of see it from, and I think it's just expertly written. You can see where each character's coming from, because Indy's like, you know, it was a lonely way to grow up. You cared more about people that had been dead 500 years than you did me. And then he's like, but did I ever tell you to brush your teeth or do your homework? No, I taught you self-reliance.
So from anybody else, from any sane person's point of view, that's just bad fathering. But
well, that's kind of what I thought. Yeah, and you can sort of you can see where they're coming from, but they're both hurting from the loss of, you know, wife and mum, aren't they? And it's sort of like
they haven't really been able to talk to each other about it because they don't really know how to
process their feelings. And it really hits home, does that?
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think what else we can say about it really, because it's just such a good movie. It's such a great story. I think Spielberg's got a real talent for storytelling.
And yeah, look, he can. Him and Lucas are a bit of a dream team here, really, aren't
Yeah.
they? Because Lucas brings the story elements, what's going on, and then Spielberg's like, yeah, that'll work, or maybe try switching this out. Like the initial draft of this was all set in the Austrian castle,
Yeah,
and it was going to be talking monkeys and ghosts.
yeah, yeah.
And it was like, yeah, and then there was something about the Fountain of Youth that got mused as well, which I suppose that
Ended
idea
up in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, it did, yeah. So that idea sort of evolved into the Holy Grail, giving immortality, didn't it?
Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because the thing is, like Spielberg's got a real talent for character development as well.
Yeah,
And I think it really shines in this one, because there's some quite detailed intricacies about the characters that you kind of that almost seem a little bit unnecessary in the story, but it's just nice.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just nice to have that. Like it's nice to have a bit of a backstory on and connecting characters well. Like I say, with the whole dynamic between Henry Jones and Marcus Brody. And do you know what? If I was to pick a story that I'd like a backstory that I would love to see, it would be Marcus Brody and Henry Jones getting into these kind of adventures in
their youth.
The I suppose it's going to be the late 1800s, isn't it?
Yeah, 1880s.
Yeah, so like Wild West probably
Yeah,
around that sort of time.
that's crazy, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
think about it? Yeah,
It's like bits of history that you feel like shouldn't go together.
yeah. There's I looked at it last night. Indy's born in 1899.
Yeah,
And Henry is born in 1865.
so like the Civil War ended.
Yeah,
Yeah, so around the sort of peak of the Wild West, he'd been a teenager and going into his 20s. Because I kind of get the
because
impression
they grew up together in England, didn't they?
Yeah, because I sort of get the impression that they've got a bit of a dark past that they both have, in the way that like Tim Roth's character in Lie to Me.
Yeah,
It's quite sort of, because like Henry Jones's whole thing is he's the the history teacher. He's very stuffy and
the one the students hope they don't get.
yeah, exactly. And I can't help wondering whether he's got some sort of sneaky secret past that that was quite similar to what's going on with Indy.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I mean, if you there's echoes of it in Crystal Skull.
He's handier than he should be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but there are echoes of it, like saying in
Yeah.
Crystal Skull, because when you look at the first act of the film, he is a stuffy old teacher, and he's no longer got all the kids fawning over him. He's the he's the stuffy old teacher. What are you doing in the library? Archaeology, and he carries on, doesn't he, when he's riding the motorbike through, and Mutt even says to him, "You're a teacher, part-time," and it's like, yeah, the sort of echoes of it, isn't there? So I think you're right. I think there probably could be an interesting story there of him in his youth, and
It seems like him and Marcus Brody, there's a bit more to it. Like they would maybe, because they're like both fiercely intelligent as well, and it's like there would have been quite an easy target for like the Secret Service to come after to work for them.
yeah,
That sort of stuff. And I don't know. I think there's got to be a story about why they ended up in the States
yeah.
as well, like why they both ended up in the States. And I think I would just like to see it. I think it would be. I'd like to write it to tell you the truth, and I might. So this feels a bit meta to ask this, but Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, is it going in the museum?
Of course, it's going in the museum.
It is the museum.
It is the museum. It is the reason for the museum.
Yeah. And I would say
You have chosen wisely.
So there we go.
it's just a great film.
It's so good. It's so good.
I just love it so much.
Oh, Phil, we've made it to episode 10, mate.
We have made it to episode 10. This
we're-
is so cool.
Are we more or less 6 months into this podcast now?
I think, did we start in November? Was that the first episode?
Mank, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Monk. Yeah,
And
it was when that came
then
out.
we did 3 weeks later or so. We did the Christmas Batman episode, didn't we? And then, apart from where we've had a few scheduling conflicts recently, we've been more or less every couple of weeks or so, haven't we? And we're going to be back to that now. See, we promised it, folks, and this is going to be, by the time you're hearing it, be 2 weeks from the last one coming out.
Yep.
We're also open to any suggestions that you might have for episodes going forward, because if you can remember a few episodes back, we said that we're not going to take a series break after this one like we'd initially planned at the start. We're just going to keep going until either you get bored or we get bored, whichever one comes first.
We'll keep going until we run out of steam, and then we'll stop for a bit and then start again later.
Yeah, that's usually how these things go. But
yeah,
I think
we'll call that a season.
Yeah, I think we're going to try and get to at least episode 20 and see 2021 out.
Yeah.
But we've a couple of specials planned, and a couple of films that we want to dive into. But yeah, hit us up on the socials. What do you want to hear?
We want to do some director deep dives as well. We want to sort of do some like movie marathons, and sort of talk about a director or a franchise, or and sort of sweep the whole thing.
We're even threatening on doing an episode as a commentary to a movie.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
So that you can mute the movie and then listen to us two pillocks chelp about what's going on in the screen.
Yeah, we'll make sure there's like a timestamp on it so you can, pause it at the same time.
Put the timestamp to 0 when you hear Phil say the word quack.
Quack. So as promised, last week JT did me a little movie quiz of 20 questions, and I was 10 for 20, which I don't think is too bad. Some of them were harder than I was expecting. Some of them I definitely should have got right.
Not going to lie, I felt largely confident last week when you said that you were going to do the same for me. Now I'm in the hot seat.
It's a bit.
That confidence is well and truly gone. So
just relax. It's fine. I'll be gentle.
Hello, it's Phil Tarrant here from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We've got JT in the hot seat. He's from Leeds and he's currently on £0. He's got all of his lifelines.
Are you sure you want to take the money? Are you sure?
We don't want to give you that.
So yeah, this is JT's little movie quiz. So the very best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And may the best man win. In which year was the first ever Academy Awards ceremony?
1928.
29.
Oh.
Sorry, mate. Question number 2. In which fictional town and state is Back to the Future set?
Well, it's Hill Valley.
Yep.
But I couldn't tell you the state, I'm afraid.
Okay, you get half a point for Hill Valley. It is Hill Valley, California.
Oh.
What is the name of the Old English sheepdog in the movie Labyrinth?
I've never seen it.
No?
No, I've not seen it. I picked it up not so long since to watch, so I'll have to get back to you on that. But for a hazard, let's say Balthazar.
Balthazar. You're not far off, actually. It's Ambrosius.
How is that not far off?
Because it's weird and fantasy sounding. Okay. Question number 4. Nicolas Cage movies Season of the Witch, Drive Angry, and Ghost Rider 2 were all released in which year?
2011.
It was indeed 2011. Question number 5. Which country has received the most Academy Award nominations for Best Foreign Language Film?
I want to say Germany.
It is Italy.
Bugger.
14.
Oh, that makes sense as well. Oh, well.
You get a bonus point if you can tell me who's had the most nominations.
China.
It was France.
It was France.
That's 60.
There you go. That's an impressive feat.
Okay, so question number 6. Eleanor from Nick Cage's Gone in 60 Seconds is what make, model, and what year of car? You get a bonus point for the year.
Is it 1969 Ford Mustang?
It's a 1967 Ford Mustang GT500. So I'll give you a point for Ford Mustang. So, question number 7. Ron Howard's 2013 movie Rush follows the racing career of Niki Lauda and which British Formula 1 driver?
Not a Scooby.
James Hunt.
I would not have got that in a million years.
That's Chris Hemsworth's character.
Yeah, I've not seen the film. I've seen the poster, but F1's not my forte.
All right, if you don't get this one, then we're both in serious trouble. The bank manager in the opening scene of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight was played by which actor?
William Fichtner.
William Fichtner it was. Question number 9. Which member of the Monty Python cast also portrayed Robin Hood in Time Bandits?
Oh, bugger. bugger. It's not John Cleese, is it? It's John Cleese?
It was John Cleese.
I haven't seen that film since I was probably about 12 or 13.
Question number 10. How many feature-length films has Christopher Nolan directed?
Right, okay, am I allowed to count them?
Yeah.
Right, okay, following Memento, Insomnia, Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet. I want to say 11.
It is 11 indeed. Yeah, I thought you'd get it all. I thought you'd get that one right if you counted them all. What is the name of the guerrilla army in the 1984 movie Red Dawn?
I've not seen it.
No?
Good grief.
I haven't seen it, but I still know this.
Fair enough. Not a clue.
Think about the Family Guy sketch. The Family Guy cutaway with the
No,
they do a musical version of it.
can't think.
I'm a Wolverine.
Well, there you go.
Or the Wolverines.
I'm doing as poor as you at the minute. In fact, actually, I think I'm doing worse, aren't I? I'm 2.5 points up.
2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5.5 points.
5.5 points?
You got 5.5 for 11. Question number 12. The character of Hugh Stamp in Mission Impossible 2 was portrayed by which actor?
Oh, is that Doug Gray Scott? Oh no, it's the other.
About, yeah.
It's the other guy, isn't it? Oh bugger, what's he called? Tim Blake Nelson?
Nope. It
No.
was Richard Roxburgh.
Richard Roxburgh. Of course, it was Richard Roxburgh.
Was Tim Blake Nelson in that?
No, I was confusing him with Richard Roxburgh, and I don't know why.
Okay, question number 13. This one might stump you actually as well. Which species of dinosaur killed Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park?
I don't know the name of it, but do I get a point if I know that it's the one that goes and its like, head opens up and it...
You can have half a point for yeah. Yeah, you can have half a point. It's a Dilophosaurus.
Yeah, well, there we go. Folks, I'm doing shite here. I hope you guys are doing a bit better at home.
Alright, so I'm going to cross out that half
He's been
point.
an absolute bastard. He's gone deliberately.
Yeah, sorry, I've gone a little bit harsh. I wrote this one myself rather than getting into... I was thinking last night of some tricky ones. In the movie Fight Club, Tyler Durden claims that one can make napalm using equal parts gasoline and what other ingredient?
Soap?
No.
No.
Frozen orange juice concentrate. Question number 15. What was the infamous nickname of Gene Wilder's character in Blazing Saddles?
I can't remember.
They used to call me the...
It's the something kid, isn't it?
I'll give you half a point for kid. It's the Waco Kid.
Oh, I knew that.
Yeah.
The minute you said that, I
Yeah.
knew. Oh,
But I shoot with this hand.
yeah.
Right, number 16. A close camera angle capturing a human subject from the top of the head to just below the waist is colloquially known as what kind of shot?
It's not POV, is it? No, that's close up.
It's called a cowboy shot.
A cowboy shot.
I mean, it is a type of close up. I'm gonna give you half point for that as well. Yeah, because technically it is a type of, but it's the shot from either above the head or forehead to just below the waist, so you can see the guns. It was kind of made famous in spaghetti westerns, hence the cowboy shot. Question number 17. The 2000 Chris Columbus movie Bicentennial Man, starring Robin Williams and Sam Neill, was based on a novelette by which author?
Philip K. Dick.
It was Isaac Asimov, as in Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics. Same bloke who wrote iRobot. Question number 18. In Edgar Wright's 2010 movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the title character must face how many evil exes?
7.
7 indeed. Question number 19. The films Con Air, Last of the Mohicans, and Under Siege have which actor in common?
It's not Cole Meany, is it?
It is Cole Meany. Question number 20. The character of Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on which real historical serial killer?
Is it Ed Gein?
It is Ed Gein. Right then, so the final tally is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
He did
7,
poorly.
8, 9, 10. So that means next week, sudden death. We'll go in tie break.
Oh,
and just to reiterate the if you missed it earlier on, the question which I'd like to ask the audience: the character of Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off is seen throughout the movie wearing a jersey from which NHL hockey team, and you get a bonus point if you also know the player on the back. Please don't Google it. Give me a shout on social media at Twig Says or at JT at the Movies, or indeed at Old Museum Pod on Twitter. We're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Indeed we are.
So just comment on whatever's up there already.
And if you can catch it, there is a carrier pigeon flying around aimlessly somewhere.
Yeah. If you've got a net, that'll be quite handy.
Because we could really do with him back. It's his birthday next week.
We have important things to put into transit, and we don't trust drones. They're not alive like them. So we've got quite a lot of questions from fans this week. And with it being the 10th episode, we can go hog wild.
We can indeed, yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to answer these questions a bit better than how I've just done them. Cause
that's not bad, actually. I wasn't expecting you to get 10. Because I deliberately made it difficult. I'm sorry. I know it's a dick move, but I felt a bit stupid after last time.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough, because I'm feeling the same. And I went through, because there was a list of 100 questions on that one last time, and I'm like, as I'm going through them, that's why I was taking sort of a few seconds here and there between questions, because I'm like, I can't ask him that. Even I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have had the answer in front of me. We're not recording in our usual location. We're out on location today.
Yeah.
3 points to you if you can guess where we are. Clean up on aisle 3.
So we're not in Phil's recording studio this time.
No.
So we've got quite a few questions from fans this week. So thank you very much to everybody who got in touch yesterday. When I say yesterday, I mean we're recording this on Tuesday, the 25th of May.
We are.
So thank you very much for everybody that got in touch on social media and left us some questions. These are all going to get shout outs. We've got 3 questions, first of all, from Steve Deacon Davis on Twitter, who's at DDC Nebworth. So, hi Steve, thank you very much for asking us.
Steve, I hope.
We'll start with it, because he's asked a couple of silly ones as well. What's the difference between a 1970s Tokai Stratocaster and a Fender one?
Honestly, I don't know, because I've never played one. But I know that they were in the era of lawsuit guitars, so they were made to be as close as possible, and that Tokai were one of the few companies that got away without being sued by Fender, so long as they made subtle changes to the design and the manufacturing to avoid copyright infringement.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. I've never played one either. I assumed it was kind of like just
they are
copies,
regarded
but...
they are regarded as like top quality, like sort of what's the best imitations? Yeah,
but as good as Strat copies get.
Yeah, but as good a Strat copy as you're going to get. Or the same with the Les Paul inspired versions, the Love Rocks as they call them. And I think there's an SG that they do, and a 335 and a Telly. But I know that they do a Telly, because not that I've ever played one, but our bandmate used to own one back in the day.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
But they do them. But what the difference is, I'm not too sure. Obviously, manufactured. I would imagine in a different factory in Japan, they won't have the same specifications. So whilst they'll have been able to take a Fender Strat and dissect it, the pickups won't be wound necessarily the same way. The materials might not be the same. So, aesthetically, you might have something that's virtually identical, but it might feel and play a bit different. I mean, people like Stevie Ray Vaughan, though, and your man out as ZZ Top have favoured them at times over the actual Fender product. I think, is it Stevie Ray's album, or the single, The Texas Flood? Either way, there is some iconic artwork of Stevie Ray holding a Tokai Strat rather than a Fender one. And like I say, I know your man from ZZ Top. I always forget them. There's the guy whose surname is Beard, and he's the guy that doesn't have a beard in ZZ Top.
Oh, ZZ Top, yeah.
Yeah, and then is it Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember which way round, who's guitar and who's bass, but the guitarist has
is it
played
Frank
them.
Beard?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's Frank Beard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that answers that. I've never played one either, so I don't know. But do you know what? We'll go on a little we've been on about going sort of window shopping for guitars again for a little while. So if I spot one, I'll pick it up and have a play, and I'll let you know. But to me, even Fender Strats, like, they all play differently anyway.
Oh yeah,
so.
they absolutely do. Yeah. I've got a Mex one that I bought second hand, beat up, and it is absolutely fantastic. And then when I was sort of about 18 months ago in the market for a new guitar, came into some inheritance money and wanted to get a new guitar to sort of commemorate the person. Yeah. And I played an American Fender Strat, played several, and like I said, all different, and nothing's a patch on. For my taste, anyway, the battered Mex one that I've got.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
So Steve also asks, where have I left my sunglasses?
I think, Steve, that I last saw them on the back of your head, so that it was making it look like to the people that you're around that you've got eyes in the back of your head.
Yeah, like cousin it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you should check there, mate.
If not, have a look in the vestibule.
Absolutely. And if all else fails,
check down the side of the sofa.
Well, check down the side of the sofa. You can click your heels together 3 times and say, "There's nothing like me sunglasses," and then Judy Garland will bring you them.
Mm-hmm. I found mine in the fridge once. So that's a thought.
I mean, I wear glasses, and I can't really see without them, so it's very rare that I do it. But I occasionally do the bit where I sort of put them up above my eyebrows, and then I'll be like, wearing my glasses, can't find them, and then do the whole eyebrow drop and back onto my nose.
Don't you have eyes? Yes, but I don't use them because it wears the batteries out.
Yes, indeed. Maybe that's what's wrong with mine. I have to take them out and change them. Have you got a screwdriver? We'll do it now.
Yeah, somewhere. There's a toolkit down here. So Susan plays recording. We'll sort it out. So I hope that was helpful. I'm sure it probably wasn't, but. And finally, Steve also asks, which Doctor Who had the coolest outfit? Now, I took the liberty of making a list.
Go for it.
Of ones that we can choose from. It seemed to be the sort of favourites, but to be honest, I struggle to pick one. So there's the 4th Doctor, there's Tom Baker and his scarf.
Yeah, so Tom Baker's kind of iconic, really. I'm not a Doctor Who. Do you know what? I am a Doctor Who fan, but I'm a casual fan. I was introduced to this sort of properly by my girlfriend, my mum's husband, Miles, who listens to the cast. Shout out to Miles.
Yeah, shout out Miles.
He listens to this when he's doing deliveries in his van. Is a huge Doctor Who fan, the biggest Doctor Who fan I've ever met. And he'll probably have a lot of in-depth reasoning as to what his favourite Doctor Who ensembles are. But yeah, for me, I'm just sort of the casual fan, and I'm only really familiar with the more modern era, the BBC sort of. I know it's all BBC, but the reboot continuity, Eccleston onwards.
Well, there was also on the list is William Hartnell's suit.
So which, again, that's fairly iconic, isn't it?
Because he's the first Doctor, so it's just that sort of that was like the dawn of the weird Doctor Who look. Sylvester McCoy's sort of at the races look, but that always creeped me out a little bit.
Is he the one with the celery in his pocket?
Yeah, and he looks like he's going to
like the Grand National
Cheltenham,
or the Derby,
yeah,
whatever.
But like white bowler hat and sort of white suit, colourful tie, umbrella.
Yeah,
always
Colin Baker always looked like he'd made his suit out of a deck chair, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, what else have we got? So. Going into sort of later territory, I mean, you've got Paul Mcgann, who only had
the TV
only had
movie,
the one
didn't
TV
he?
movie. But his Edwardian suit, especially like later on in the movie where he gets really sort of grizzled and he's quite dishevelled, he looks fantastic. I do like that. Like I think that's a very cool look. Christopher Eccleston's leather jacket and t-shirt combo.
Yeah, Eccleston looks sort of cool, but he just sort of looks like normal bloke in the street.
Yeah.
And then Tennant did that
was the suit and the Converse.
The suit and the Converse, wasn't it? Occasionally, like the pinstripe sort of jobby, wasn't it? If I'm thinking right, yeah.
And then you've got Matt Smith had
the bow tie, wasn't it, and the tweed jacket.
Matt Smith was all about the accessories, which are quite like the weird hats and stuff. Like
the fez.
The fez, not so much the fez, but the Stetson was definitely like a.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That was like, okay, now you look cool with the rest of this ensemble and a Stetson. That's awesome. But in general, I'm just not a bow tie guy.
No, fair enough.
And then you've got Peter Capaldi's suit and waistcoat, which was great. Like,
yeah, Peter Capaldi would have looked daft doing anything else, being the Doctor, really.
Yeah, I think so.
And then Jodie Whittaker looks fantastic.
She looks really good. I really like Jodie Whittaker because they get to choose, don't they? Like the actors get to pick what they, because it's like
I know Laura
theirs,
knows this, but I really fancy Jodie Whittaker as Doctor Who.
She's great.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of the seasons that she's been in, and it's got nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker because I think she's amazing. It's
excellent. The writing's not cracking, is it?
As much as Chris Chibnall's brilliant, and you know a lot of his other stuff. You know, when you look at stuff like Broadchurch, fantastic, but it just to me it's just lacking something. It's not quite got that sort of spark that it hasn't got that cleverness and that real sort of complicated interwoven story thing that Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat had, and I really miss that.
Even like the Russell T Davies stories as well.
Yeah, I think with better writing, Jodie Whittaker. I mean, she's amazing. I love her as the Doctor.
I think they've had some pockets of gold. Like the Rosa Parks episode really stood out
that was
for
a
me.
good one, yeah.
And you know there have been some other pockets of it as well. I quite liked I can't quite remember the context of the episode, but there's the estranged couple, the two fellas, and they're sort of like chasing each other all over the world, and there's sort of something going on there.
Yeah.
I liked that episode. There's pockets of it, but yeah, I think largely on the whole, sort of me and Laura have come out of it. I thought the first season was stronger.
Yeah, I think so. Second one not so much,
but the second one missed the step of it. But yeah, I think my favourite Doctor Who.
Probably, do you know what? I can't stand Bradley Walsh.
Oh, he's my favourite of the. He was my favourite of the three companions.
Yeah.
I think he's hilarious. I have a lot of time for Bradley Walsh, but
my favourite, I think, my favourite's going to be David Tennant's.
Mine is as well.
David Tennant's my favourite of at least of the modern Doctors.
Yeah, he is mine as well. I mean, if you have to pick an overall iconic one, I'd probably say Tom Baker is the image that comes to mind with the scarf and the hat and the big coat.
I think Peter Capaldi's probably a close second to me in terms of the look, because I love the suit and waistcoat thing, like the three-piece.
Yeah, and the sort of the jacket down to your knees, sort of.
And it's the fact that because Peter Capaldi was such a flamboyant Doctor, and I love that, you know, because it's the big the long jacket and the sort of sweeping behind you, and you know when he crashes through the wall in the tank.
Yeah,
like I got it for my fish, like you know, stuff like that. It just works so well to have that sort of combo.
It does, yeah.
But I think it's the suit and Converse combo.
Yeah,
David Tennant's suit and Converse combo. I just love it. Like, especially in certain sort of historical times when it looks really out of place. Like, you know, when they go back to ancient Rome, to Pompeii, and the one with Peter Capaldi in it. Which, by the way, this is purely a fan theory. There was quite a lot of stuff I remember seeing at the time when Peter Capaldi was named as the Doctor, saying he can't be because he's already been in it. Now, I reckon that one of the ways that the character of the Doctor regenerates is by imprinting on somebody that they've previously met.
Yeah, or taking on the form sort of thing, like faces that you see in your dreams are faces that you've seen in real. Like you can't create a face.
So there's absolutely no reason why. In fact, it would stand to reason that somebody who'd been in Doctor Who before would end up playing the Doctor later on. And that's just I know it's a little side point, but
yeah, no, I've heard things like that about it. It takes on the.
It just makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
So for people who said that Peter Capaldi shouldn't have played the Doctor because he'd already been in Doctor Who, that one's for you. So yeah, so you can sit on that one. So yeah, I reckon David Tennant's
David Tennant's where I'm at as well. I think he looks the coolest.
So we've also got questions. We've got a lot of questions to get through, so we should probably crack on. We've got a question from Jordan on Facebook. What are your 3 most anticipated movies?
So yeah, Jordan is Movie Worm over on YouTube, and he's a buddy of mine, and he's got a fantastic channel. He's recently passed 1,000 subscribers, and if you're not over there, go and have a look, because I'm not kidding, the guy is fantastic, and I'm not just saying it because he's a pal and because we chat and stuff, but the guy is really, really great. So yeah, go and have a look. But yeah, he's asked us what are our 3 most anticipated movies. He's not put any sort of like, you know, coming out this year or whatever. He's been going to next year or even the years after or whatever. So I was thinking
sort of runners up for me.
Well, yeah, likewise. I was sort of thinking. I think if I'm really honest, and it's going to be Batman, Spider-Man, and No Time to Die. Actually, no. Not the Batman, but the Flash Batman movie that they're doing when Michael Keaton's coming back.
Yeah.
No Time to Die and Spider-Man.
I've got down Spider-Man 3, No Time to Die, and The King's Man. I just love the Kingsman movies, and that because it's a prequel and because Ralph Fiennes is in it.
Yeah.
And because they're doing loads of sort of pre-World War One bits of history, and it
looks really cool.
It looks amazing.
Doesn't it?
I can't wait to see it.
I'm really intrigued about this whole Spider-Man thing, where apparently they're setting up the multiverse that's going to be in Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, because spoiler alert, they ended Far From Home. You've got the reappearance of J.K. Simmons.
You do get the reappearance of J.K. Simmons, and obviously Peter Parker is outed as Spider-Man. Yeah. So apparently Charlie Cox is going to be in it as Daredevil, because Peter Parker's going to need a lawyer. But also, apparently, the film is going to launch the whole multiverse carry-on. And apparently Tobey Maguire and Andy Garfield are going to show up in some capacity.
And it's going to have to tie into Doctor Strange too.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole multiverse of madness thing, which is going to be really weird.
And apparently, Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire series, is going to become canon in the MCU, because when Doc Ock goes in the end of Spider-Man 2 into the pit of fusion reaction explosion-y goodness, apparently he doesn't fall and burn to his death. He falls through time and space and ends up in the Tom Holland universe.
So this new phase of Marvel movies is going to really make everybody's brains hurt. I think it's going to...
Don't you always think, though, that you find with Marvel and DC, and Marvel have generally landed it... Well, Marvel have always landed it better.
Yeah. But it's hard to collect canon from older movies. It's like how this is just going to be really bizarre. I've got a horrible feeling there's going to be horrific continuity errors everywhere. That's my worry with it.
I think out of the two of them, I think Marvel will probably do a better overall job. But when the Flash movie got out, when Batman vs Superman came out and they announced the DC slate, and they're like, we're going to do Cyborg, we're going to do Lantern, we're going to do Justice League, and Flash is the only one of them that they've actually made from that slate of films, or is going to be made, and it's going to be Michael Keaton as Batman, Ben Affleck as current Batman, and then obviously Ezra Miller playing the Flash. And then no sooner had they done that, Marvel are in Spider-Man 3, Tom Holland and Andy Garfield are coming back, and Doctor Strange, we're going to have him go all over everywhere, and Nicolas Cage might be Ghost Rider again.
Oh, that's going to be mental.
They sort of it was the same when Civil War and Batman v Superman came out. They announced Batman v Superman, and then delayed it a year to try and make it a better film. Well, guys, you should have delayed it about a decade, because it didn't bloody work. But Marvel then were like, we're going to do Civil War. And you don't know who came up with it first here, because Marvel always look like they've had this 10-year plan. Yeah. And DC have just been on the fly, let's try and copy them, they're doing good.
Just wait until the next MCU movie comes out and then do something similar. And
Absolutely. No Time to Die has been ready for audiences since November of 2019.
Yeah.
And then it got pushed into February 2020 because Danny Boyle stepped down early on in production, and Cary Fukunaga, the man behind True Detective, I'm really excited to see what he does with it, because True Detective, at least the first season, was absolutely fucking fantastic. Not that I liked it or anything, it was just amazing. So I'm really excited to see what he does. Obviously it's Daniel Craig's swan song, and I'm really
they could have used this time to find a new Bond. That's the thing. It's
we don't know that they haven't.
Yeah, no, that's the point. But do you think that they'd want to give audiences something else to be excited about while they wait for
Yeah, there's. Well, I mean, the thing is that they probably have started preliminarily looking, because Daniel Craig's been very open that he doesn't want to come back. But I mean, how many times did Roger Moore say it? How many times did Sean Connery say it? If there's a big enough paycheck, they'll come and they'll phone it in. I mean, you look at A View to a Kill, look at Diamonds Are Forever. Hellfire, look at Die Another Day. If the money's there, they'll come and do it, won't they? Well, these guys, they're not daft. But I hope Craig steps down. But I'm hoping he gets a really good send off, and I'm really looking forward to the end of this whole shared universe, connected story, overarching. Blofeld was behind everything.
Yeah, bollocks. Just go back to the normal, one at a time.
Deals with an adventure, and it's done. Quantum of Solace was controversial opinion, Quantum of Solace was great because it carried on from where Casino Royale left off, and it was the first time that had ever been done. Like, the consequences of a previous film informed the actions of the next one.
Like, in terms of like it actually being direct rather than just being a
that happened a while
references. And
it's like absolutely direct. And then Skyfall, I thought, right, okay, wasn't really my cup of tea, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, it's phenomenal, but not really a Bond film for my money.
It was a lot. That film was a lot. It was like,
yeah. And it's sort of like, right, standalone story. And then we get Spectre, and you bring in the talent that is Christoph Waltz.
And waste him
as toys out of the pram Blofeld rather than this evil, menacing bastard.
I don't want to see him wasted in No Time to Die. I think they might be a little bit more careful.
I really hope. I really hope that they are.
Now that he's got the scar and the cat, and now he's Blofeld.
Yeah.
Like now he looks like Blofeld. You know.
Yeah. Tastes like it too, but it's a breakfast cereal.
So we've got quite a lot of stuff coming out next over sort of the next few months, but yeah, I would say my top three is probably No Time to Die, Spider-Man 3, and The Kingsman. We've got a few Marvel properties coming out. Shang-Chi's coming. We've got Venom 2. We've got
Black Widow,
Eternals. Thor: Love and Thunder as well in May next year.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because that's going to be sort of the bridging point for where Guardians goes next as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You've got obviously Spider-Man and the Gucci movie. Do you know what? Have you seen the cast?
It looks fantastic, doesn't it?
The cast is amazing. Like I couldn't care less about the subject matter. I really don't care, but like the cast is like. So you've got Adam Driver, Lady Gaga, Salma Hayek, Al Pacino, Jared Leto, and Jeremy Irons. I mean, it's physically impossible for that movie to be bad. It can't be. There's also Top Gun 2, which I'm quite excited about.
Which one?
Top Gun 2.
Yeah, Top Gun Maverick's going to be interesting. Do you know what? I have faith in that movie because Tom Cruise, I think, is potentially a bit of a Marmite guy.
Yeah.
But I've always loved him.
I like it.
And I think he's only got better with age. Like his films, like the Mission Impossible films, have got stronger. The Jack Reacher ones were quite good. Edge of Tomorrow was fantastic.
That's a great movie.
And I think he's just done some really, really great stuff, and just seems to get better and better as he goes. And then Chris McQuarrie, that's been heavily involved in the last 3 Mission Impossible films, as is involved in Top Gun 2. So I think that's a good. That they're a good team, you know.
Another one that I'm quite excited about is Free Guy, and I know it's like
Laura's really keen to see that one because Jacksepticeye's in it with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, because it's going to be a bit silly, but it's Ryan Reynolds wakes up one day to find out that his whole life he's been an NPC in somebody else's computer game. I mean, I think it's going to be funny at least.
Yeah, because it's a familiar concept, isn't it? Like you remember Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell a few years ago, where he realises that he's a character in a book, and so like it's going to be an interesting take on a familiar tale, isn't it?
Sorry, it was that meme that was kicking about a while ago. You know, the thing about Gary Oldman. Yeah. Of like you suddenly you're in the supermarket or something, and the walls come down, and you suddenly find out that you're Gary Oldman. That's how good he is. Like,
yeah. There's also been Gary Oldman this whole time.
There's also Death on the Nile, Matrix 4, and Uncharted.
I'm cautiously optimistic about Uncharted, but it's been in development hell for years.
Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, Antonio Banderas.
I mean, it's a solid cast, so let's hope that they do something really good with it. I hope that they try and be faithful to the games and do their own thing and do it right, and not try and be another Tomb Raider, another Indiana Jones, or what. You know, I want them to put their own stamp on it.
Yeah.
I think it could be really, really good if it's done right, but yeah, we'll see. So
another question from Tamati Shed Project on Twitter. Shout out Tamati Shed Project. Absolute shout out, bud. Legend, really good musician. He's currently building a recording studio in a garden shed in New Zealand.
Excellent. Do you want to come over and build one for me, mate?
Yeah, that'll be great. He's been a good mate of mine on Twitter for a while, so hi, and shout out. That's at Shed Tamati on Twitter. He says, how do you feel about The Rise of Skywalker? Was it a fitting end to the saga? What aspects of the film that you did or did not like? Okay, so I came out of Rise of Skywalker and I loved it. I enjoyed it. I absolutely adored it. Upon repeat viewings, I would say that feeling of love has sort of calmed down a little bit, but I still quite enjoyed it. Yeah. I like it. You know, I do like the sequel trilogy for what it is. You know, like it's Disney's best effort. in
They tried.
sort of meddling in the Star Wars franchise, which they shouldn't really be doing. But you know, if they're gonna, I think that's probably the best they could have done.
Personally, I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the original trilogy characters should have been used and retired in The Force Awakens only as a passing of the torch. And then episode 8 and 9, if they had to be made, should have been about Rey, Finn and Poe.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in much the same way that I know that all the characters in 1, 2 and 3 are characters that go on to play a part in 4, 5 and 6, but in much the same way...
It was a deliberate setup though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but much the same way that episode 3 is the one that is the most closely connected with, you know, and you can have little flavours, and I think things like The Mandalorian has done it really well.
That's what happens when you give Jon Favreau like that much creative control, because the man is.
And what's
genius.
the other guy's name? Is it Dave? Is it Filoni?
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni, yeah.
But because the Mandalorians had like people like Bryce Dallas Howard have been involved in it, and it's had this sort of host of which I don't think has really been done, obviously, because you've had you know, on TV for years you've always had rooms like writers' rooms.
Yeah.
But they've had a director's consultancy.
Yeah.
You know, a group of people directing episodes and sitting and talking about the continuity and really getting all the details right. And that's something I think that Jon Favreau's a genius for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's obsessive about it. It has to be right. And if he wants to get as many people involved as possible, but it's got to have that overarching storyline. And the thing is, that's what's wrong with the sequel trilogy, is that you had it written and directed by different people in each film, and you like the reason why the overarching continuity seems junky and unmatched and it doesn't fit together.
Yeah,
you know,
it was sort of like, you know, Abrams set the whole thing up, and I know you disagree, but I really do agree with the consensus that Force Awakens is a remake, an homage, if you will, to A New Hope.
Yeah, I'm still a bit on the fence with that one, but yeah.
I mean, for me, it is, but I have no problem with that whatsoever. In fact, I'm more than happy with that, because I think that's what that needed to be. And then I get that Rian Johnson was like, right, okay, I'm coming in, I want to leave my mark, but I don't know, I just didn't care for The Last Jedi, and I'm not going to be one of these guys, oh, he's a shit filmmaker, and all that. He's clearly not. Have you seen Knives Out? Have you seen Brick? Have you seen
he's a great
Looper?
filmmaker.
The guy is a fantastic filmmaker. He tried something, it didn't land with the audiences, we just move on.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And then Rise of Skywalker, clearly some executive somewhere went, oh shit, that one were a bit controversial, we're not doing anything new again. So they're like, right, okay, well, the guy who made the first one was alright, let's bring him back and remake Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they did. The whole Palpatine came back somehow, and you're his granddaughter. That's the bit I'm not so sure about. And the bit at the end where she goes, I'm Rey Skywalker. No, you're not. Sit down. Be your own character. Stand on your own. Don't have somebody else's bloody legacy tarnished because you haven't been written as a strong character. Rey could have been fantastic. Yeah. And arguably was in some scenes. There were some really brilliant things there. Luke Skywalker, obviously, you know, is Anakin's son, and that's a big sort of reveal. But like, they made the reveal in Last Jedi that she's nobody. Yeah. And that to me is more important.
Yeah, I think it is. It's definitely, it makes more sense in terms of the story.
Because realistically, who was there left that she could have been the heir of? Yeah. You know, it was either going to be Obi-Wan or Palpatine, wasn't it? And either's shit.
Yeah, it's either one doesn't really work, because I mean.
Yeah. And then it's just, yeah. So that was the bit that I didn't really care for, mate. But on the whole, do you know what? I don't look at Star Wars in too much. I know I've just gone into some detail, but when I watch them, I don't like get hung up on all the little bits and bobs. I just sort of watch it, and do you know, I've had a right good fun time watching it. You know, I didn't mind the overall story. Loved the Harrison Ford cameo in it. That made my day. I liked Adam Driver's character arc coming full circle, and you know, I think there were pockets of brilliance in it, and I think I agree largely with your sentiment, Phil. On the whole, they did what they could.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So we've got 5 questions left. We've got one from Ruben. So shout out Ruben of the Going Jack podcast,
and more importantly, of Leaving Over Tomorrow.
Yep. Ruben says, you've got to eradicate one actor's work from the world of film. Anything else like stand-up or music stays. Who are you banging off?
I honestly don't know that I hate anybody enough to get rid of him, so I'll let you take this one, mate.
Kevin Costner. I can live without his good stuff.
Oh, poor Kevin Costner.
I can live without his good films.
I honestly can't think of anybody whose work I dislike enough to think.
It took me a while to land on Kevin Costner. I was thinking about this last night. I almost said Edward Norton, but then
you lose Fight Club, don't you?
An American History X.
I honestly, I don't want to go down a controversial rabbit hole, so I'm not gonna. But you could even start taking actors and performers that have maybe done some, people who are convicted offenders, or whatever.
Yeah, but then you go into that territory. You've got people like, I know that people have the internet's kind of made a really big deal of cancelling Kevin Spacey, and fair enough because what he's done. But I can still cope with him, purely because some of his films are so good.
I don't think I would watch anything he brought out now.
No.
I don't think he's ever going to bring anything out again. No. But absolutely, he's obviously been
some of the films
been accused of some horrific things, and from what I understand, he's largely admitted to them.
Yeah.
But then
lose so many good movies.
Things like The Usual Suspects, or American Beauty,
Many Hysteric Goats. One of my favourites.
Baby Driver, and I think you probably have to look at the collective piece of art maybe and think, right, okay, well, like Usual Suspects, there's 4 other cast members in there that have put their heart and soul into it.
Yeah, like 7 as well. You've got Brad Pitt and
or 7, and I think you just sort of have to. Yeah, I don't know. That's a.
It's a debate for another time.
It is a debate for another time.
But yeah, I'm binning off Kevin Costner. That's mine.
Well, there we go.
Because I can live without his good movies.
And I'm walking out because I just can't believe you're getting rid of Kevin Costner. What did he ever do to you?
Did you see Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves? He did that to me. I sat through that.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
I love The Untouchables.
He just comes across as such a nice bloke. He just seems like he'd be sort of like, just really friendly. Like you could go and have a beer with him or a coffee, and he'd just be really friendly and accommodating, and just a really decent bloke. I don't know. When you get that impression about people.
Be like the Family Guy cutaway about. It's like trying to tell Matthew McConaughey that he sucks. Not that he does. I love you, Matthew McConaughey, but I love that sketch. That you are terrible. Oh, thanks, man. Did you see Sahara? They just said they wanted a good-looking guy with a great ass.
Let's have the next question.
So Badger on Facebook says, shout out Badger, out of all the racing films such as Rush and Death Race, which actor would win in a death race, like the film, style Grand Prix in Le Mans?
Okay. Jason Isaacs as Dick Dastardly in Scoob. Mate, I'm not, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not really a racing fan in any sort of capacity, and I haven't seen many racing films. I don't know whether this is a bit of a cop out, really, but the lads, Adam Driver and Daniel Craig, in Logan Lucky, they rob NASCAR.
Yeah.
So just because I liked that pairing of those two actors, I'll say them. But I honestly don't have an informed answer to give you, I'm afraid, mate, because it's really just not my cup of tea.
I'm going to go with Burt Reynolds from the Cannonball Run.
Oh, well, there's a shout.
Versus Chris Hemsworth in Rush. Because I think it would be really funny.
What about, just for a real sort of curveball there, Sandra Bullock from Speed 1, not Speed 2, but in the bus.
That'll be class.
It's like come up with your own wacky races, isn't it?
It's like, okay, you've crossed the finish line, you can slow down now. I can't, it'll blow up.
I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
So, Will on Facebook. Hi, Will, OG fan. If you could make a mashup film with one protagonist and one antagonist from different films and universes, which one would you choose and why? I've got a few for this one. I would like to see an Iron Man versus the Joker movie.
That'd be quite interesting.
Doctor Strange versus Voldemort. Indiana Jones versus literally any Bond villain. And we're 10 for 10.
And we are 10 for 10.
There's the bad guy from Green Street against Jason Statham from Crank.
That'd be just like the most Cockney movie ever, wouldn't it?
That'd be really funny.
Oh dear.
You're in Indian country, old son. Oh, sorry, no, that's from Legend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, his character from Legend against Jason Statham from Crank. Or Jason Statham from the Meg, and then you can have the Meg as well.
Yeah.
And just in the background, like giant prehistoric shark.
I don't know. Do you know? I was thinking about this. Like, put like the Ghostbusters in something like Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever.
Yeah. I was thinking something with a really weird town. You know, one of those like Children of the Corn or Wicker Man or like even modern stuff like Get Out.
Yeah.
Simon Pegg's character from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
In with that.
just send him in to police them all.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's Sergeant Angel's coming pest. Check out his horse.
Check out his horse.
I'm a slasher, and I must be stopped.
Timothy Dalton's so good at that. It's when he does the face when he's got the picture of himself behind him doing the same face.
If they ever make a fourth film in that series, I know Cornetto trilogy, but if ever they decide to make a fourth,
Cornetto quadrilogy, got a nice ring to it.
Daniel Craig needs to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
because
that'd be really
Hot Fuzz, Dalton's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then in World's End, Brosnan's
the bad guy.
So Daniel Craig needs to be the bad guy.
Yeah. I've got I do have a really sadistic one for this.
Oh, go on then.
Just because I think it'll be quite funny. Guy Pearce's character Leonard from Memento against the Riddler.
Which Riddler, though? Are we talking like the upcoming Zodiac killer Riddler from The Batman, or are we going like Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey. Yeah. I just think it'll be really funny. Or like maybe Guy Pearce teaming up with Jason Bourne just after the accident. Yeah, just after he wakes up. So it could be like, if you see like...
It'd be like Hear No Evil, See No Evil, wouldn't
it? Gene Wilder or Richard Pryor just like... Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
One saw it but can't remember it. The other one doesn't know his name.
I've also got Axel Foley from Beverly Hills Cop against Al Capone in The Untouchables. And Men in Black literally anywhere in the Star Wars universe.
Just Tommy Lee Jones in the cantina scene. Who shot first, Han or Greedo? Neither of them. Agent K blew them.
Agent K blew them both up. Like Louise said a funny one last night when I mentioned the thing about the Riddler, about Leonard and Jason Bourne. Like Leonard from Memento and Jason Bourne. And like, yeah, the bad guy could be like Gilderoy Lockhart just after they zap him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know when they do the memory thing and you just remember it?
Yeah. Do you live here? No.
What a lovely place.
It's just like magic.
So what I'd love to see though is like the thing with Get Out with Simon Pegg from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
I want to see him team up with Lakeith Stanfield because I think they would be awesome together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like,
oh no, that would be brilliant with that. Let's jump into Chris's question. We've got Chris and then one more question, and then we shall bring this thing home, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Phil. But Chris says, after watching the amazing Godzilla vs. Kong, what mythical monster would you like to see on the big screen? I'll be honest with you, Chris, mate, I have not seen Godzilla vs. Kong yet.
Neither have I.
Because I'm going to go to the cinema probably next week or the week after and watch it. Yeah. Because I really didn't want to do that one on video on demand at home. I know they give us the option through Sky and, you know, all that sort of stuff. They're about to empty the bin that we're in, Phil.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll give away where the surprise location was.
It's in a bin. The bin could be anywhere.
Coming to you live from the Bifferskip. It's like when Radio Air used to take out the remote radio station and do it from like the shopping centres and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's the same for us, except we're just in a Bifferskip.
We just got a laptop and an interface and a couple of mics and we're just wandering about the streets. Yeah. Wandering around the streets of Badley.
We're like them guys from charities that come and try and pester you for, for your money or your details or whatever. Anyway.
I haven't seen it either. Do you know what? There's a lot of like Greek myths I'd quite like to see done, but Chimera, because I really want to see. I mean, obviously, like Chimera was the the virus from Mission Impossible 2. That's like the only time, because it's half lion, half goat.
Yeah.
With a snake's tail and breathes fire, and it's like how I'd love to see how they could do it, like what the hell it would look like on screen.
Yeah, and what they could make it with.
All the pictures of it, like even the ones from old Greek mythology, just look really sort of awkward.
Yeah.
There's this beast sitting in the mountain somewhere going, "Kill me! I'm someone's failed experiment."
I would like to see a Loch Ness Monster movie.
Okay, yeah.
But done really seriously, and sort of like almost set in the quotation marks real world, and they're not, you've got some scientists or some adventurers or whatever are up at the Loch Ness, and they're doing, some geographical survey or archaeological whatever, and, that people don't believe in Loch Ness Monster, and it, the real world equivalent, and then there's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of like what they did with The Thing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But, maybe don't make the monster a big, giant, serpenty, whale, dragony, lizard, scary snake thing.
What the hell is that? It's a Leopleurodon, Charlie.
Yeah, I don't know, but do something, like The Thing, do something creative with it. Maybe it takes on different forms, and that's why it can never be caught, or whatever. Maybe it's something that infects people. I don't know, do something based on that legend, but make it really sort of like the Loch is the location. Like, it's not going to go out and then start stompeding round downtown, whatever Scottish city's nearest to it. Sort of like Godzilla would, for argument's sake, or whatever. But yeah, something like that that's almost bottle. And sort of like maybe we don't see much of the creature, and it's all sort of like, it's scarier because it's left to your imagination.
Yeah, it could be like a Mystic River type thing as well, like weird town sort of bottle movie set in a strange place with like.
I don't remember a giant lizard turning up in that one.
No, but that as the sort of outside town story.
Yeah, so the whatever town's nearest to it. Like, I don't know if you remember a very specific and random reference, but there was an old episode of the Saint with Roger Moore, and there was an episode of that set up on the Loch, and there's a castle, the ruins of a castle on the Loch, and I always just love that setting.
Yeah.
Put that in it somewhere. So yeah, mate, that would be mine. So I suppose mine would be a bit more toned down, and the monster would be more in your mind than, like, I don't even know if I'd do a reveal of it, because you can never really live up to what somebody can come up with in their own mind.
Yeah. Sort
of thing, but yeah.
So we've got one more question, the final question from Jake on Facebook. What is your favourite film from the year you were born?
Batman Returns.
You're 93, aren't you?
92.
92. See, I'm 91. Mine, I think, I was kind of torn with this one between Hot Shots and Terminator 2.
I'd go T2 of the two.
Probably go T2. I think if I was stuck on a desert island, though, I'd pick Hot Shots.
Yeah, I suppose it's which one's got more rewatchability for you. Batman Returns, again, older special place for me. It was one of the many films that Dad let me watch when I shouldn't have watched it as a kid. Yeah. And again, taped off ITV. Yeah. Like, even now, when I watch it on 4K, I still know the points in the film where the old ITV adverts used to kick in. Yeah. And it still ever so slightly jars me that it doesn't go to a 1995 advert for Diet Coke or whatever. Like, there was one bit in it where, the bit just after Penguin's done the whole groping the woman, putting a button on her chest, and it cut, and it was, I can still hear it now, like the announcer going, Batman Returns will return after the news at 10. Yeah. Like, I still hear it when that scene comes on. But there we go.
So that's it from us.
It is, yeah. Just before we wrap up, that with Jake was Jake Talks Movies, another mate of mine on YouTube, with a really great channel. Started a similar sort of time to me. And we've had some friendly discussions sort of on Facebook and over on YouTube, and he's a good lad as well. So Jake Talks Movies, Jake Blower. If you're not already having a listen and a look at him, go and say hello, because he's a good lad. But yeah, absolutely. Over to you again, Phil. We've made it.
We have made it. That's 10 episodes. I hope you've really enjoyed episode 10. We've really enjoyed making it. We really enjoyed watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and talking about it. It's been really fun.
It's been great.
A good action-packed episode, this one. So we haven't got an idea of what we're going to do in episode 11 yet, but we'll keep you posted on social media. Absolutely. And thank you very much for listening. Remain indoors. Have a pleasant apocalypse. And we'll see you in episode 11.